Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with another video in our macOS development with AppKit tutorial series. And in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look at how we can support rotation gestures in our macOS applications using NSRotationGestureRecognizer. Now, if you're familiar with UIKit, the way that this is going to work is slightly different than with the UI rotation gesture recognizer, and you'll see why here in a moment. Alright, so what is a NS rotation gesture recognizer to start us off? Well, the NS rotation gesture recognizer is a type of gesture recognizer that allows us to detect when we have two fingers rotating around each other on the trackpad. And this is typically used to, well, as the name implies, rotate objects on the screen, in particular views. Now, the example we're going to be using today is I have a 500 by 500 square in the center of the screen. It's all it is an NS view with a background color set to yellow, a border set to whatever the label color is, and stuff like that. All right. So, how do we create an NS rotation gesture recognizer? Well, what we can do, excuse me, is inside of Xcode, above where we configure our little NS view there, we need to create our gesture recognizer, and it's going to be as simple as instantiating an object of NS rotation gesture recognizer. So we'll say, let rotation gesture equals NS rotation gesture recognizer. Now, much like our press and click gesture recognizers, this will take in two parameters: a target and a action. So target is going to be self, and the action is going to be a selector, and the method that the selector is going to reference is rotation recognized. There we go. And that's it. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we need to first make sure that our anchor point of our view's layer is set to a CG point of 0.5x and 0.5y. That way it's in the center of the view. And what that'll do is that will make sure that our rotation looks more natural. Make sure that it looks like it's rotating from the center of the view. Now, the way we're going to do this, the anchor point may or may not matter, but if you're applying a CG or a CA affine transform 3D using core animation, then this will matter. We're not going to be doing that in this video because that goes a little bit beyond the scope here, but we're going to be using a different method. I just wanted to show you that this is something you might want to set if you're doing stuff with core animation. All right, now, before I set the accessibility information, I'm going to say v.add.gesture_recognizer. So now this view will have this gesture recognizer associated with it. So we'll say rotation gesture like that. Cool. Now that that's done, my goodness, excuse me. I have a action method annotated with @objc. Rotation recognized. Its sender is an NSRotationGestureRecognizer. And all we're doing inside of this method right now is the same thing we've been doing with all of our other gesture recognizers. And that is, we're making sure that there is a view associated with our gesture recognizer. If there isn't, then we return because we can't do anything. If there is a view, then we move on. All right. Now, how are we going to handle rotating this view when the gesture is recognized? Well, what we're going to do is we are going to first retrieve the... we're going to first apply a rotation to the bounds, to the bounding rectangle of our view. Now, when we do this, AppKit will not automatically re-render the view. It'll not mark it as needing redisplay. We need to do that manually. And there are two ways we can do that. We can make the view re-render manually by calling it the view's display method, or by setting its needs display property to true. So we're going to go ahead and say v dot rotate by degrees, and then we'll pass it a CG float. This CG float is going to come from our gesture recognizer. So sender dot, and then we have two properties we can work with here. Rotation, which is the rotation of the fingers from its last rotation point in radians, or we can do rotation in degrees. We're going to use rotation in degrees because our rotate by degrees takes degrees. So we'll do that. All right. There we go. Now we've rotated our bounding rectangle, but we need to tell AppKit, hey, re-render this view, damn you. So what we're going to do is we'll say v dot display. All right. Now, if we run our code now, we can see when we do our rotation gesture, it does work, but the rotation is way too fast. How do we slow that down? Well, we can slow that down by saying after where we call the display method, we're going to say sender dot rotation rotation in degrees equals 0. Because here's the thing, rotate by degrees means it's going to rotate a given number of degrees. If we keep letting it increase and increase and increase as the gesture goes on, because this is a continuous gesture, the number of degrees that it's rotating will continue to increase, and therefore making the rotation spin ever faster. So we need to reset that to 0 every time, so the rotation is much smoother. All right, now we can run the code again and then do our rotation And now our rotation is much smoother. All right. So we can also you can also print the rotation if you would like, but we're not going to do that here. I urge you to try it though, so you can see what it actually does. You can see the values come in as the gesture is recognized and all that stuff. It's very, very helpful. Anyways, guys, that pretty much does it for this video on NSRotationGestureRecognizer. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.